Blackwell house stood at the end of a long, narrow road, surrounded by dense woods. It was a place that most people in the small town of Milford avoided. Local legend had it that it was cursed, that anyone who lived there had met an untimely end. The house had been abandoned for nearly 30 years after the tragic deaths of the Blackwell family, and no one dared to go near it, save for a few curious souls who would brave it on Halloween night. But for Tom and Emily, two college students looking for a cheap place to rent, the house seemed like the perfect find. They had moved to Milford for their studies, and with the rent prices skyrocketing in town, the Blackwell house was an irresistible deal. It was large, spacious, and the landlord seemed eager to get rid of it, offering them the place at a fraction of the usual cost. The first time they saw the house, it looked as if it had been frozen in time. The once grand mansion had a Victorian charm, but now its windows were boarded up, the paint peeling from the wooden exterior, and the yard overgrown with weeds. Still, Tom and Emily were undeterred. They signed the lease and moved in the very next day. The first few days were uneventful, but there was something unsettling about the place. At night, the silence felt oppressive, as if the air itself was thick with unspoken words. Tom and Emily had unpacked their things and tried to make the house feel like home, but it never quite felt right. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift, and there was a constant chill in the air, even when the heater was running full blast. It wasn't until the first night they spent there alone that things began to get strange. Tom was lying on the couch, reading a book, when he heard a soft thump coming from upstairs. He paused, listening, but heard nothing more. He shrugged it off as the house settling, but then it came again, a faint tapping, like something was moving above them. Emily, who had been in the kitchen, came into the living room and asked what he was doing. "Did you hear that?" Tom asked, his voice low. "Hear what?" Emily replied, looking confused. "The tapping, like something's walking around up there." Emily smiled nervously. "It's probably just the house, Tom. It's old. Things like that happen." But Tom wasn't convinced. He stood up and walked toward the stairs. "I'll go check it out." As he reached the top of the staircase, the tapping stopped. He peered into the dark hallway, his breath coming out in small clouds of fog, despite the warmth downstairs. The air seemed colder here, and the shadows seemed to press in from all sides. He called out, "Hello? Is someone there?"